welcome to another episode of Level Up with Coach Heather. I'm Heather, and today we're talking about empathy and forgiveness, cultivating compassion for yourself and others. We're going to explore two powerful practices that can truly transform your relationships with yourself and with others. Empathy and forgiveness. These aren't just feel-good words, right? Empathy and forgiveness are like bridges that connect us to deeper compassion, understanding, and the most beautiful part, they free you up to live with more peace and more joy in your life. So, I want to share a moment in my own life where I learned just how essential empathy and forgiveness are. Not only in my relationships with others, but more importantly, in my relationship with myself. A few years ago, I went through a really tough season at work. This is when I was working at the bedside. I was in a role that was really pushing me to my limits, and I was feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. Especially the emotional strain was really taking a toll on me of sickness, and you guys know I'm a nurse, so a lot of really sad times, right? So on top of all that, I was also carrying a lot of guilt and shame about things that had happened in the past, both in my personal life and in my career. And that guilt really weighed me down to the point where I was constantly criticizing myself and questioning my worth. I felt like I had to be perfect all the time, and when I wasn't, that inner voice would jump in saying, "You should have done better. You're letting everyone down." And even worse than that, right? There were voices that say, you're nothing, you're no one, you're a horrible person, all kinds of things, right? It was like carrying this invisible backpack filled with self-judgment, and it made every challenge feel 10 times heavier. But then something shifted for me. I had a conversation with a mentor who looked me in the eyes and said, "Heather, when are you going to start showing yourself the same kindness and empathy that you give to everyone else?" That question really hit me hard, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. Another thing was there were things that I was judging people for and others for, and I recognized that a lot of times it was me hiding my actual desires, right? And things I actually wanted by judging them. I was kind of putting myself in a prison. And anyway, empathy and forgiveness aren't just about being nice. It's not just about letting things go, right? It's about creating space for understanding, healing, and growth. And it starts with showing yourself the same compassion that you would show your best friend, your mom, your grandmom, your child, right? So let's talk about how we can start cultivating empathy and forgiveness in our own lives. When we think about empathy, we often think about showing compassion to others, which is wonderful. But real empathy starts with how we treat ourselves and how we judge ourselves, right? It's about noticing when you're being hard on yourself and then choosing to speak to yourself the way you would a dear friend that you love so much, right? So instead of noticing everything you do wrong and getting mad at yourself all the time, noticing what you do right and being kind and soft with yourself. When you can look at yourself with empathy, you create room for growth instead of judgment. It's not about ignoring your mistakes. It's about giving yourself the grace to learn and move forward. I want to stop right here and discuss something really quick. Some people talk very negatively to themselves, and they say that that is the only way to get their self, to do things, right? So their self-talk might be, get out of bed, you stupid piece of, shit, put one foot in front of the other, go to work. They might have to say that they have to talk to themselves that aggressively and negatively and, kind of mean and rough and tough, right? But the truth is, and this is coming from someone that's been there, right? Doesn't matter how many accolades that you get. Doesn't matter how many fitness competitions you win or how many marathons you run or how many degrees that you get or how many master's degrees or how much education or how many awards or how many accolades or how many people adore you. We think sometimes that these things will help us feel better about ourselves. That if we can just do A, B, C, and D, that we will magically be healed from the trauma of our past. That we will magically start loving ourselves. That we will magically be happy. I am here to tell you, or if we could just get that girl, or just get that guy, or just get this promotion, or just open this business, or just meet this, run this 100, mile triathlon, do all these different things, right? Those will not fill that hole. You have to love yourself. We have to forgive our past, forgive our tormentors, let go, get past the trauma, heal from that in whatever way that you heal from that. And we have to speak to ourselves kindly. If you don't learn to love yourself and give yourself empathy and forgiveness, no matter how many accolades that you get, no matter how many accomplishments, no matter how many people worship you, you still won't feel happy with yourself. And you wonder why. I've achieved all of this. Why am I not happy? And it's because we have to love ourselves. And if you're a spiritual person, God wants you to love yourself. He loves you. Sometimes people say, oh, our spiritual father is like our father. It's just like your father on earth. Well, for a lot of people, their fathers on earth physically or sexually abused them or ran out on their mother when they were 3 or 10 or 12. So, to them, what is that? You know what I mean? How can they look at God as their earthly father? They don't want anything like their earthly father, right? So we have to go with what God tells us. If we're spiritual people, that we are beautifully and wonderfully made, that we're worth more than rubies, that we're worth more than diamonds, right? You are beautiful and special, and you're created for a purpose. So please give yourself the empathy and forgiveness that you deserve. Now, let's talk about some actionable steps and actionable strategies that we can take to start loving ourselves more and forgiving ourselves. So why does this all matter? It sounds so frou-frou, or it sounds, this or that. When you look at yourself with empathy, you create room for growth instead of judgment. It's not about ignoring your mistakes. It's about giving yourself the grace to learn and to move forward. The world is always knocking us down. We need to be building each other up and building ourselves up. So, action item 1. The next time you catch yourself being critical or harsh, I struggle with this. Pause and ask, how would I respond to my friend going through this? Then speak those same words of understanding and compassion to yourself. Write these down in your phone, in your journal, just on a sticky note somewhere. as a reminder that you are worthy of kindness too. We all make mistakes. Step 2, empathy towards others. Once you start practicing empathy towards yourself, you'll find it easier to extend the same understanding to others. Because here's the truth. We all make mistakes and we all have struggles. There's no perfect person, right? And when you see another person's challenges with compassion and you try to understand them, it changes everything, right? Like if this person is doing something that you think is bad or wrong or sinful, and then you realize, well, this is what they're dealing with at home, it changes your perspective, right? They're getting beat every day, or they have no food, right? Empathy towards others isn't about excusing behavior or letting people off the hook. It's about choosing to look beyond the surface and understanding that everyone has their own battles that they're dealing with. So this week, this is our second action item. I want you to make it a practice to practice empathy in your conversations. When someone shares a struggle or behaves in a way that frustrates you, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what are they going through right now? This small shift in perspective can open the door to deeper connections and greater understanding. This can make this person this can affect their life in a positive way by someone seeking to understand them. You may be the first person that day, this week, this year, or in the past decade that's attempted to understand them. Step 3, embrace forgiveness as a path to freedom. Forgiveness is not about saying that what happened was okay. It's about freeing yourself from holding on to anger, resentment, and guilt. And sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. Forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself. It doesn't change the past, but it changes your future. It allows you to let go of the pain so you can move forward with a lighter heart. I had to learn to forgive myself for not always being perfect, for the times I didn't have all the answers, and for the moments when I felt like I failed. And let me tell you, choosing forgiveness was one of the most freeing things that I have ever done. And the way that I started forgiving other people was incredible once I started forgiving myself. And I still know I've got a long way to go and a lot to work on. But we all have to start somewhere. So action item 3. Think about a situation in your life where you're holding on to anger or guilt, whether it's towards yourself or someone else. Ask yourself, what is holding on to this costing me? And then choose to release it. You can write a letter of forgiveness to yourself. You can write a letter of forgiveness to the person who wronged you, expressing what you're letting go of. And you can keep it as a reminder, or you can let it go in a symbolic way. You can, burn it. You can crumple it up. You can give it to the person. You can give it to yourself. But just remember, empathy and forgiveness aren't one-time choices. They're practices that we get better at over time. And the more we embrace them, the more peace, compassion, and freedom we have in our lives. Pick one practice to start today. Maybe it's showing yourself empathy, extending compassion to others, or choosing to forgive. And if you feel comfortable, share your experience in our community or in the comments, DM me. Let's support one another in this journey of healing and growth. I don't care how amazing your life has been. Everyone goes through this. If we didn't struggle and we didn't grow and we didn't learn, it wouldn't be life, right? How boring would it be? Thank you so much for being here with me today as we explore these powerful practices. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing with me. I appreciate you listening. Keep showing yourself grace. Keep opening your heart to yourself and to others. And let's keep leveling up our lives together. Because giving ourselves grace and forgiveness and giving it to others helps us create more joy in our lives and those around us. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Keep shining. Keep adding that sparkle in life. And I'll see you in the next video.
Could see that you're good enough.